Hello, everybody. Welcome to Changing Clothes, the podcast. We're back. Waleed, how are you?
Good afternoon. I'm good, thanks. But how are you doing? I'm dodging COVID bullets every day.
Every day. The trick to COVID is if you see it coming, act uninterested. Treat it like a beggar. Do not pay attention
Or a
walk by. Roll your window up.
Just keep on going.
Keep on going.
Sure.
Cool.
So, what are we doing today, Patiza?
We've got Tiger Brand.
Okay.
Tiger Brands.
Mm-hmm.
Tiger brands. Yeah, they have just released their financials for the year 2021. And so we're going to take a look at Tiger Brand. And I think what we want to try and do is generate some insights, of course, to decide whether you should invest in Tiger Brands or not.
Sure.
It is dear to me when I think about them, Jungle Oats and all of that. That's who happens in my
What's
head.
that best chocolate bar in the world?
Best chocolate bar in the world, Jungle Oats Dark Chocolate. After they made that, they should have just cancelled all chocolates. All chocolates. Toblerone and every Ferrero Rocher. What's the point? You've got Jungle Oats Dark Chocolate. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the annual report. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, annual reports aren't as fast as results, so we'll be looking at the 2020 annual report, and then we'll look at the financials, of course, that came out, the 2021 financials that came out.
Okay, so we'll look at the 2020 integrated report and the 2021 financials.
So it's going to be straddling a bit.
Okay, cool.
What we want to know, of course, when we look at the annual report that we'll be looking at, is we want to know who Tiger Brands is, how they apply their trade, who's running the show there, how they're measured, and then, of course, what's in store for Tiger Brands, which then, when we go into the financials, we'll see how well that ties up. So where to find them? Tiger Brands is tigerbrands.com.
Yeah, okay.
You go off into that website. At the top there, you'll see home and all sorts of buttons. You click on the investor button, and the investor button sends you to Results Center. I think that's what we're interested in, Results Center. And in there, you'll see 2021 annual financial statements and 2020 annual integrated
So the one
report.
below.
The one below.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that's the gig. So
So who is Tiger Brands? Tiger Brands is one of Africa's largest listed manufacturers of fast-moving consumer goods, FMCG market. Our core business is manufacturing, marketing, distributing everyday branded food to middle-income consumers.
Right.
Our portfolio also includes leading brands in the home, personal care, and baby sectors.
So middle income, manufacturing, marketing, which means brands very important, and then getting it to every corner of South Africa. I assume I see company in South Africa is immediately stated there, with desirable growth on the continent under the vision. So I also like to look at purpose. So they say, and I like their purpose. This is one of the best purposes I've seen. We nourish and nurture more lives every day. That's a very cool purpose.
Yeah, I was wondering how home, personal care, and baby sectors come in, but I see it's in the nurture.
Yes.
It's in the nurture statement. So there's the nourish, we give you food.
Yeah.
And then there's the nurture with personal care, baby.
Yes. So is it nature or nurture? According to Tiger Brands, it's nurture.
It's nurture, definitely.
So I see immediately when I jump down to the brands, I'm sure they've got a bit of a better breakdown here, but I can see 5 brands that are...
Just before you run off the vision statement, this is always a flag for me.
To deliver
top tier financial results.
And be recognized by all stakeholders as the preeminent fast mover consumer goods company in South Africa and the most desirable growth company on the continent. Yeah. But I see your bugbear.
My bugbear of where's the customer in your vision?
Yes.
And being driven by financial motives only has proven to be not a sustainable model over long term.
Gotcha. But they've got a good purpose.
The science, the purpose is cool. The vision, but here you go again. So I'm expecting to see lots of CAs in this company.
Most probably, most probably. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So what brands of what do they sell? And immediately they've got. I thought it was 5, but I see it goes on to the right. We've got Tastic. So they're known for Tastic. They're known for Albany.
The bread people. So Tastic, the rice people.
They're
bread,
known for Golden Cloud.
flour.
They're known for Ace.
Pop.
They're known for Jungle Oats Dark Chocolate. They're known for Purity. They're known for Koo. And when I think of Koo beans, Oros, of course. All Gold. The reason Heinz exists is because All Gold didn't make it to America in time. So we apologize to the Americans for having to put up with Heinz.
Yes.
They're known for Cross and Blackwell mayonnaise. And then they're known for Benny. And I've never heard of Benny.
Me either. But certainly all the other brands are household names.
So definitely.
Growing up, every house I went into had.
Back to the purpose, we nourish and nurture more lives every day. Those are the things that were used to nurture me in a lot of the households that I landed up being in when growing up, visiting relatives and stuff.
Absolutely.
So they break up their segments. They try and become a bit more clean there. So they've got grains. They've got 4 segments, by the way. So they've got grains. They've got consumer brands of food. Then they've got home, personal care, and baby. They call it HPCB. And then they've got exports and international. So that's kind of how they measure themselves. And they are in 33 markets in Africa. So right there we can see a map. Almost 80% of their total exports go to 5 markets, they state. Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Nigeria, and Cameroon, but they are in 33 markets. So they go all the way out to Mali, Niger, Chad. So
definitely a big African story, huh?
Yeah, definitely a big African story. I'm intrigued, and I've pressed a button called Out of Scope there in their geographic location. If you click the button Out of Scope, it highlights Namibia and Botswana, Swaziland, and Lesotho. And I'm trying to figure out why it's out of scope. So as you click on that map, it highlights different sections.
Oh, I see.
So they manufacture in Cameroon and South Africa, and then they export to all these places that we've been mentioning, and then they state that Namibia, Botswana,
there's a little note there that says that they're serviced by the domestic business.
So they form part of South Africa.
Yes. So they're actually included in the South African number.
I see.
And that's why they call it out of scope on there, exporting.
I see. Okay, so that's who they are. That's where they apply their trade, and that's what they sell. Is there anything else I want to talk about as I go through this? I do want to click their business up there before we disappear into who runs the show and see is there any more we can find out about their business model. So I've clicked our business, and in there I've clicked our business model. And under our business model, I can see, there's a breakdown. Okay. So they've got throughput of primary agricultural products being transformed into branded food items. So if you look at their business model, I was looking for that. Are they farming? Are they manufacturing, etc.?
Oh, okay. Okay. I was wondering where you're seeing this throughput of primary agriculture.
And I see there that they've got wheat, rice, maize, oats, sorghum, tomatoes and beans, fruits and nuts, sugar and cocoa. So these are the key inputs that then translates into them producing or transforming that into branded foods and items. So a very interesting business model. So do they own farms? Now that I look at those things like wheat, rice, and maize, when they talk about manufacturing, is there anywhere in here whether they state that they just get the raw materials, or do they grow the raw materials?
So they got cost streams, and then they got the revenue streams.
Okay.
Our most significant cost streams are raw material, employees,
Sales
and distribution costs, electricity and fuel, marketing expenses,
compliance,
regulatory compliance, maintenance, upgrading of plant equipment, other administrative material cost differentiators, our ability to leverage scale through a centralized procurement hub, standardization, simplification.
Okay, so based on just that, it seems that the raw materials arrive, so they don't have any farms, or doesn't look like they have any farms. They procure wheat, rice, maize, etc. So procurement to their value chain activities, procurement is the big thing. Then manufacturing, of course.
And grains appears to be 40% of the business, 50% of the business.
Yeah, so remember that segment, segmenting that they did at the top. They had grains, which was one, and then they had healthcare, personal care, and baby was the other one. And then they had exports and international, and then they had one more. So grains is very, very big in their lives. And of course, it makes sense because you got to make Jungle Oats, and you got to make what else was on the grains?
So very product-centric business. Right?
Very product-centric.
Very product-centric. They build brands. So I'm guessing they kind of do need to have a look at who their customers are, the context of the customer for that brand.
But before we go down to those brands, I just want to touch on the outputs here, because the brands come from these outputs. So we left it at grains. You were talking about grains. But grains is one output, according to them. They claim to have a couple of other outputs there. So they do milling and baking is an output. Groceries is an output. Jungle Oats Dark Chocolate and the snacks and treats is an output.
Yes.
Beverages is an output. And then, of course, that HPC.
Home personal care.
And baby. So I just wanted to just touch the outputs themselves, because from here is where they spawn off all of these brands.
Yeah, I must admit I'm very confused right at the moment.
Yeah.
Because when I look at their outputs, so these are the things we deliver. So that categorization, then there's their brands categorization. Yes. Then they've got these revenue streams that are again a different grouping of things. They've got grains, consumer brands, kind of thing. So they've got these multiple different groupings of things. And so I don't have a clear picture of what do they do, what is their core activity, what's the core thing. And I know okay, so those brands fit into milling and baking, and the brands fit. So they produce. Or is this the manufacturing outputs?
So okay, let's take a step back and let's look at it for what they present here. I'm with you. Okay, so if we look at that value chain, it's made up of 5 things. It starts at procurement and it ends at marketing and branding. And the 5 things that they have there is they've got procurement, and they've got manufacturing, and they've got research and development, and they've got packaging and logistics, and they've got marketing and branding.
So I just frown a little bit at that sequencing, right? Research and development so far away from marketing and branding.
Well, I mean, we're looking at it, remember, to try and answer the question of why so many revenue streams and why is it, and cost streams and all sorts of stuff. So I think we can definitely understand that under procurement, there is no sales happening. So you're just purchasing. Under manufacturing as well, and R&D. So when we look at maybe not. Maybe under research and development, they already have some revenue. Yeah, maybe they already segment and have some sales.
To ensure that we maintain a leadership. So I would have expected that kind of to be part of marketing, and because the two are very closely related. But
remember the R&D. If I look at it from here, it might be more linked to the inputs that are required and the trends that are happening around the inputs and what they can produce before you get to marketing. I think marketing is really slapping logos on
advertising,
that kind of
those kinds of activities.
Yeah. So PR and then also probably matching consumer need, but it's the down the stream side. I think the R&D is about the inputs. If I smash wheat and maize together, what do I get? You know, kind of thing. Or
Okay.
you know, yeah. So I think that's why they have them separate.
Okay.
Yeah. And then of course packaging and logistics is packaging and logistics. So I think that's where so at any one point in time that they can make money out of the value chain, R&D or packaging or marketing and branding. I think they look at it grains, and then consumer brands, the brands that they already have, and then HPCB, and I think that's really focused around baby, around purity, and then exports and international. And
yeah, so what's interesting around that packaging and logistics is this the statement they make there. I find quite interesting where they say distributing these products as efficiently as possible to consumers through a network of customers.
Yes. So they are says channel partner business. So they are wholesale.
Yeah, but they're describing their channel partner as a customer.
Yes.
So they're saying the retailer, the wholesaler, the general trader, that's my customers. Yes. And then there's a consumer that
buys from that retailer.
From that retailer.
And for me, that is perfect. That is 100% the fight that I usually have with your business model setter-uppers who are generally CAs and stuff is they think of these people as employees, or they think of these people as a distribution arm.
You're talking about the channel partners.
The channel partners. But when we look at it from a purist point of view, your customer is only one. You don't have many customers. You only have one customer. The person who takes the check out, signs it, and gives it to you. That's your customer.
So, of course, for them, there's customers that are competing with each other. I mean, so like a Checkers and a Pick and Pay.
Yes.
You know, so their two customers compete with each other, and they service. Service both.
Because at that level of product and service, you're differentiating yourself differently for whatever reason. You know, you could have let's go back to our example of Mr. Price. You have Yappy Chef in there. You know, that's premium stuff competing side by side. Was it Power, which is bottom of the end, like complete opposite of the end. But those two people could be customers of Tiger Brands.
Yeah.
So they traditionally collaborative and view themselves as ecosystem partners.
Sure.
But when they go to the consumer, they go with the value proposition that might be seen by the consumer as competitive. But they usually clean it out. They usually understand which part of the wallet they occupy.
But I like the use of the word network.
Yes.
Because to your explanation right now, it's not just a simple straight line wholesaler, retailer, customer. Yes. There's a network effect. There's an ecosystem of interaction that's going on there to the end consumer. Yes. And them recognizing that complexity and those dynamics in that. That's pretty cool. You know? And that's probably why they do so well.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. I mean, if I take a certain chocolate that I might like from them, which is Jungle Oats Dark Chocolate. You find it at Clicks, and every time I find it at Clicks, you know, and I get to a counter, I grab one and I think, oh, I'm going to spoil myself. And when I get to the counter, they always say, oh, but if you take 3, you get 1 free. Who am I to turn down that deal? But it's to your point, you know, those are they're in that network. You know, Clicks can create a differentiator to a macro. So even though they're not a wholesaler, they're a retailer, they're able to structure their product and service in such a way that's compelling for their customers.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so I think I kind of get it. I do agree with you that it may seem a little bit all over the place. You know, revenue stream versus outputs versus segments and stuff. But I think
the value chain.
I think it's just finding a neat way to tell the story in an annual report is probably where they just gave up and thought, just send it out.
Yeah.
what everyone needs is in there.
No, sure.
Yeah.
So I'd like to look at the strategy now a little bit, and so one of the things I'm going to be looking for in the strategy is they make the point about they being dominant in category.
Before we go, yes, before
categories. So the danger is the complacency.
Yes.
Of being the leader and things like that. And so I'm looking for how in their strategy I'll be looking for how are they.
Before we go to the strategy, because there is one thing that informs the strategy, and that is how you measure the team, who's in charge,
Sure. Cool.
And how are they measured. So I'm going to click administration. I'm assuming under administration, I will find the information I'm looking for. So I've just clicked administration, our governance. Maybe it's in there. There we go. And there's the leadership team.
Our governance.
Okay, our governance.
Our leadership team, creating value through good governance.
Absolutely.
Remuneration and performance.
So since 2007, Khotso Mokele is the man who has been running the chairmanship of this. A lot of people know Geraldine Fraser Moleketi
from politics.
From politics,
government,
and she is a chairman designate. So I think she came in September 2020.
So she's going to take
I think
over.
maybe because of COVID, whatever, there's a plan to not just hand over the rails. So 65-year-old Khotso means is handing over to 60-year-old.
So he's going to retire.
So he's probably going to retire, and she's going to take over. And so she's learning a little bit of that. Of course, she's involved in lots of places. What is interesting for me when a chairman like a Geraldine takes over is I'm very interested to see, is that vision going to change? Now, to your point, this is a person who's not about the cash. She's really about good companies. So I look forward to see what vision, how they'll articulate that vision a little bit later. Of course, a lot of people, I won't really talk about the rest of that NEDs, the non-executive directors, just more look at the color of them and the gender of them. So I'm seeing 3 women versus 1 guy in that first one, and then I'm seeing 1 woman versus 3 guys, and then I'm seeing 2 women versus 2 guys, and then I'm seeing I think that's a lady at the end, 1 woman versus 2 guys. Okay, so we kind of at a 40% women, which is quite good, quite a big board, and then it's good to have lots of non-executive directors, by the way, especially with so many brands involved. And then when we look at people of color, that first row is all color, the second row is half color, and the third row is half color, and then the last row is no color. So it seems again about
the executive structure.
Yeah, so about 40-50% of the board is people of color, and women as well. So that's good. But now we come down to the executive directors. To your point, I want to jump into them first before I talk about their color. And we've got Noel. Noel since 2015. Noel Doyle has
2012.
Been. It's July 2015.
Oh, okay. On this slide it says 2012.
Okay. So he's been the CEO. Oh, that's interesting. We're in 2 different sections. In the one section, he was appointed July 2012, and in the one he was appointed July 2015 with an asterisk that appointed him CEO in February 2020. So very confusing.
When was he?
He's got 3 appointments.
When did he become CEO?
just scroll. Sorry, I just want to see what it says on yours.
So there it says 2015.
And then where you found the 2012?
And you scroll down, there it says 2012.
Oh, so I think he joined the company 2012.
Maybe, yeah. And then
in 2015 he was asterisked, because we don't yet know what asterisk means. Because in 2020 he was then made CEO.
Appointed CEO in February 2020.
Yeah, so maybe he was a CFO in 2015. I don't know the history, but he's been there, long legs with the business, close to 10 years. And he's been at the helm for the last, let's call it 2 years. So that's fresh eyes there.
So did he move from CFO to CEO?
we can only assume. If we find the story later on, maybe. But I'm assuming at the moment. You know, Ian Burton was recently hired, and he is an executive director. He's been hired as an executive director. They don't have a portfolio for him yet, but that's usually a guy who understands the operations, who's usually made an executive director. Because you've got the CEO, usually, you've got the CFO, and then they'll usually make somebody who either is at one with the strategy and where they're going, or at one with the operation itself. And it's usually the operation itself.
And let's say he's got M&A.
He's got M&A, he's got FMCG, he's got innovation and digital insights. So he's the guy who you can consider the COO/CSO. And the point that I did want to make was maybe Noah was in that position before he became CEO. So we'll have to find out a little bit later. New CFO, Deepa Sita. Deepa's a brand new CEO there, October 2020. So she's just finished her first year, hired during COVID, during whatever this period is called. So that's the team. A lot of corporate finance, a lot of mergers and acquisitions on all three of them. So to your point of financial, that bugbear of yours of having the vision being financial, a lot of financial coming through.
Yeah, a lot of financial people, yes.
Team.
100%.
But remember, they we'll find out later on, we don't yet know, but whatever their strategy is, it may be M&A.
Sure, but Tiger Brands has a history of M&A that they've acquired.
Absolutely.
They've acquired many of the brands along the way,
Yeah.
and they've acquired many of their competitors along the way and consolidated them into their brands. Kind of thing. So I know that Tiger Brands has a long history of M&A activity.
And then there's, after me working stuff out, doing my push maths, there it is, board diversity, they give you the numbers. 60% black, 47% female. Yes. Okay, so jumping all the way down, we're interested in the numbers that are used to measure them. How are they measured? Because that we'll know why the strategy will take a specific shape based on how they're measured. So for that, I usually look for the remuneration team, the REMCO, and in the REMCO, I look for some kind of LTIPs or some kind of KPIs, LTIPs, long-term incentive plans, or KPI, key performance indicators. I can't quite find it in here. It's a very hard document for me to navigate. So I'll just type the word KPI and see what comes up. I have typed it now, and there we go. There is their measure. Okay.
Yeah, they do have short-term and long-term incentives.
Yep. So their underlying measures and their weights around them. So they are going to be measured for growth more than anything. So 65%
on growth. Sales volume.
So they've got a couple of KPIs under there, but they all fall under growth. So when we go to the strategy, we expect to see a lot of M&A or a lot of organic growth. Remember our new hire, now I've forgotten his name.
New markets.
What was the guy on the far left?
Ian.
He's got innovation and digital insights as well. So there may be some stuff we'll see there.
So what was evident just on that Exco committee again? There was no digital there's no CTO.
No, the new guy.
Wow.
That's your representation.
He doesn't have a role. He doesn't have a title yet, right? But in terms of the titles that were there,
titles. No, I get it.
No technology person, no CIO at the table, no. So no strategic use of digital yet in this organization.
And I'm just going to be fair on them. I'm going to scroll up just a little bit and see if I can see anything. But you are right. No, you are right. There isn't any. But growth, 65% growth on there, and a lot of financial numbers that are. There is an interesting one there called brand health that they do bring in. And then the next bucket that they look at again is efficiency. And efficiency is pure financial, cost savings and net working capital. And then they've got people and sustainability lumped into one. It's 20%, so good weighting at least. But I don't see measures that say to me people and sustainability in the people and sustainability KPIs. We've got one for quality,
Safety is people one.
No, that's not people. That's accidents. And I don't like that statement. There's somebody we did.
Reduction in lost time injuries.
There's somebody we did, and we may not have done it for our podcast, but there's somebody I recently did a deep dive on in terms of what they do. It was Sasso. And they had, was it Sasso? Yes, I think it was Sasso. Yeah. They had one death.
Oh yes.
And this was traumatic to them. Here you've got a reduction in lost time injuries
year
on year. It's like, no, we know you're going to get injured. So I don't.
And what's even worse, is it's phrased in terms of a loss to the company.
Yeah.
Like the time that they get to lose.
So it's not people. So the people in sustainability, I stick to my initial glance and say they don't have KPIs that are focused on people. Maybe sustainability, but that's efficiency to me.
So the people in sustainability is also an efficiency.
Yeah. And then they've got
so if you look at it like that, so it's 35%
yes,
on efficiency. 65% on growth.
And growth. And then they've got a measly 5% for a board that is 60% black, 47% female. They're African colored Indian opportunity utilization is KPI'd at 5%, of which they can miss it by half, and it's still okay.
And they would still make
they'll still get paid.
Yes.
They'll still make it.
So if they get it at 2.5%,
that is horrendous. And then they say that they achieve the stretch. Of course, you're going to achieve the stretch. You have to use one Indian person to pick up that box, put it over there.
Okay, we did it.
So I'm not very happy with that number. I like that they've got Fraser Moleketi coming in there. These are things that she will have on her radar very, very high. These are reasons she feels she contributes and gives back, and I like that. So I hope that just gets better. 5% is just a poor number over there. But that's how they measure it. Let's go off to your request strategy. Because now we kind of know what's driving them. Okay, so I'm not going to find the button. It's going to take me a while. So can you kick us off on strategy? I need to find
cool. So the strategy, they've broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4 sections: drive growth, be efficient, great people, sustainable future. Maybe like because I saw quite a few people-centric people on the non-executive board, and I think it's taking time for this great people thing to come through the organization.
Yeah.
So
I have clicked into it, by the way, just to see what it means to them.
What great people means
to them.
Yeah, what great people means to them.
And they say it's talent. The summary is a winning mindset and a great place to work. That's how they define great people. So talent, leadership, and a great place to work. Yeah. So to your point,
so the reason this is always a big deal for me is Good to Great.
Yeah.
The book series.
Yes.
Jim Collins.
Yes.
Many years of research on companies that were sustainable, that moved from good to great over a long sustainable period.
Yes.
And the research is unequivocal.
Yeah.
It's all about the people.
Always about
look after your people. Your people are going to make the difference for you over the long term.
100%.
Make sure your people are well looked after. Make sure you create a great place for them to work. A great place for them to express their talents.
Yeah. And it is stating the obvious, but we have accepted that we have to state the obvious.
Yes, because also yes, it is stating the obvious, but there aren't many companies that actually practice this thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So you have to. Yeah, you have to. I mean, if you're building a house, you don't just hire a super architect and then pick up anybody to build
Yes,
the house. You need to have skilled everywhere. You know, the guy who's bricklaying, the guy who's what else do you do when you build a house? To me, it's just bricklaying. That's all I did.
Carpentry.
Building houses in Orange Farm. I just did the
floor
bricklaying.
tiling.
I wasn't trusted with that. I was trusted with bricklaying.
Okay.
Making daga. Yeah, but stating the obvious, but you're absolutely right, the people thing. Okay, so the strategy mirrors exactly what we found in terms of how they are being measured. Drive growth, be efficient, great people, and sustainable future. I would like to dive into how they're going to achieve growth, because you can do it organically or through M&A. They've got a lot of M&A on the team, and I wonder if they state something up front. It'll most probably be a combination, but I'm interested to see what they've stated.
So let's read that first statement of theirs.
Go for it.
To deliver our growth ambition through winning category, channel and customer strategies. We will be optimizing our product portfolio, driving an innovation pipeline, realizing commercial opportunities in health and nutrition, and winning the point of purchase.
Okay, so I just want to cap there. So
what is that? What is that?
So that tells me product portfolio, optimizing it is organic growth, which is good. Driving an innovation pipeline is organic growth. And winning at the point of purchase is organic growth. So you've got 3 out of 4 of their growth for the next year is going to be organic, inward focused, but they do have one that is going to be external focused, which is now the M&A activity, and that is commercial opportunities in health, and they're very, very specific health. So they're looking to buy health companies and they're looking to buy nutrition companies.
So that we saw earlier is about 9% of their business at the moment. The personal care. So when you say health, it's that personal care portfolio.
Yes,
thing.
I'm with you.
They indicated that that's 9% of the revenue. So they're looking for growth in that sector.
And that makes sense. I mean, if you think about Tiger Brand, you think about the machine that they are. And we go back to their inputs. I think they have a lot of inputs that can translate into health and nutrition. So you've got pea protein based.
100%. So do you think it's that segment that they're going after? Yeah, that healthy foods. You know.
I mean, if you're eating Jungle Oats Dark Chocolate, you know, you need to wash it down. With protein.
Good protein.
Protein.
Absolutely. So that healthcare space and the nutritional space in that healthcare space, that looks to be their target area. And where they see growth opportunities as well.
And I think that when we go into the performance and results, it will be very exciting if we see that they've already started they've at least identified who they'd like to acquire. They probably have, and I say it's exciting because it's to us, because some of these things you keep under wraps. You don't want anybody else to know until you've gone through your entire due diligence, competition commission if required, etc. Yeah. So I think that jumps out to me as growth, and I think that's good enough. I think that's very good.
So if you go a little bit further down,
I did see that.
Bands, So they're talking about 4% volume growth, which I'm assuming is across the board, across all the brands.
Yes.
And then innovation related, they've got a very specific target there of 5.1% of sales. As innovation, consumer innovation, and then they've got the eat well, live well, which is definitely that. So they're focusing on that, the healthy nutrition, the healthy lifestyle,
and definitely goes into places. What's the one shop? It pops up everywhere.
That wellness warehouse, those kinds of
wellness warehouse would be a very big challenge.
And you can see that's very missing in the current brands and the current brand strategy.
Absolutely.
And so
oats, you can sell seeds, pumpkin seeds. There's lots of stuff that is in there.
And they've certainly got the infrastructure to leverage that opportunity. So like if they wanted a non-soya based protein type milling thing, there's great opportunities for them there. So the question is just like, is that market big enough for them, right?
Yeah.
And if they're getting into that market, they're bringing it down to a middle class type conversation,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because that's where they're segmenting.
Yes.
And the wellness warehouses tend to be higher
Yes.
LSMs that they're typically targeting.
Yes.
So Tiger Brands could bring that into.
Yeah. And in the prior years, they sold their meat products, value-added meat products, and they sold their, I don't know how to say this word, deciduous fruit. It just sounds like the most decadent fruit on the planet, deciduous fruit. Anyway, they sold these, the deli foods they got out of in Nigeria, and they disposed of those businesses. So that means definitely there's been a bit of a shift back to the core, back to let's look at the inputs and meet is
local.
It's not a direction they want to go, and I can see that's a good sell. So based on that, I think it's a good strategy for where they are now. A lot of change is going to be coming about because of the switch in chairmanship. Let's dive off. Let's go off into the financials and take a peek at.
You rushing off. So quickly,
yeah.
The strategy includes 3 key focus areas.
Oh, yeah.
Renovating our existing product range.
Yes.
To make more of our products compliant with our Eat Well, Live Well standards.
Yes.
Right? And kind of that makes sense. The cool baked beans has got a lot of sugar in it, as an example. While striving towards global best practice.
Yes.
That's 1. Innovating to develop more nutritious, affordable food products.
Yes.
And 3, and educating consumers in partnership with government, academia, and NGOs.
Yeah. Cool.
Education.
So a lot of so again, it's that 3 out of 4. 3 being the strategy is going to go for organic growth, and we can see why.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you look at those measures that we looked at, how they're measuring that team. There's a lot of financial inward-focused metrics, and they would translate into a strategy.
So remember earlier I was saying because of their dominant position in their, it'd be interesting for me to see in their strategy.
Yeah.
How do they not get complacent? And I suppose this leveraging of the strength of our brands is kind of their statement in terms of
so scale. You know, again, you've got your CFOs running the business. That's what you get when you have CFOs running a business. You know, they have, what's it, to a hammer the world is a nail. to a CA the world needs efficiency. Okay, so before we go off into financials, I'd love to figure out, have we missed anything around the strategy?
So there was a couple of things just that I wanted to go into from a strategy point of view.
Yeah.
Remember on the other side, I was saying when we were looking at their market dominance in terms of their brands, we'd like to see how they how do they do that. And so in their strategy statement, they've got the specific leveraging the strength of our brands.
Okay.
Which has got a short statement, but the most interesting part of it for me is again this: we are implementing measures to capitalize on the recent uptake of e-commerce and home cooking. The changes in-store shopping dynamics and the heightened levels of price consciousness and increased sensitivity to personal health and well-being. And again, e-commerce being so because in the exco we saw there was no real digital person. Digital doesn't have a seat at the table. It's not surprising that these things are afterthoughts. They're kind of catching up later.
Here's an interesting thing. In that same section, I saw private label products just jumped at me there as well. So that's another interesting thing about leveraging the strength of their brands. I didn't know that they had private label brands at Tiger Brand. I thought everything they sold was branded.
But they're seeing the private label brands as a threat. You see, so for them, the private label brands. So it's almost like their customers are becoming their competitors also.
I see.
So when you have a Pick n Pay private label brand that's manufactured by somebody else, and distributed by Pick and Pay in Pick and Pay, you know, then that competes with the Cool.
Okay.
Cool brand, it competes with the Albany, you know. So the private of the retailers, their private labels
is actually a competitive threat.
Yeah. While at the same time, those are customers of
that
these.
they need.
You know what I mean? So this complexity
the consumer
of you know, and so how do we win the consumer? And so that's why they may be looking at a more direct to market e-commerce. Because what is e-commerce? I mean, so Tiger brand is an e-commerce capability. Like, oh, okay.
So now they've got a direct channel.
So if they create a direct channel,
what does that mean
to their customers? And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so this is part of this emerging complexity of, you know, partners are competitors, customers are competitors, and you know, it's not simple like it used to be. You know, you knew who your customer was, you knew who your competition was, and you knew, you know, you could point a finger at them very clearly.
There is a theory called accidental adversaries. And what the theory then says is something happens to you.
Well, it's a
something happens to you.
Yes.
Right. And it isn't intentional by the person doing it to you.
Yes.
Which in this case would be, you know, a ShopRite having a private label and something. There's this thing that happens to your sales because of your customers. Checker 6060. And so now your customer is an accidental adversary to you, but your response, right, you need to your point, it's not simple. You need to think about how you respond to the slight or to the thing that's happening to you, because what you may become is an accidental adversary to your customer in your response. So you open a Tiger Brands 7070 direct e-commerce store, and then you've got a Checker 6060 store, you know, kind of thing. So very, very interesting to see where they land up in this little bit of a loop.
And I think what you're touching on, like there's going to be key segments, right?
Yeah.
So what's going to end up happening is in these segments we compete.
Yeah.
In these segments we are customer supplier.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so also winning at the point of purchase becomes a very critical thing in that context.
Yes.
And that's why it's such an important thing for them in terms of their strategy, I think, is getting this winning at the point of purchase. And key to that would be their sales force.
Yes. Yes.
And they are pointing out here that they need to invest in the sales force of tomorrow.
Yes.
So they're kind of saying, they're kind of making that statement. The way we sell today is not good enough anymore. It's not up to scratch anymore. Absolutely. You know, and we need to start looking at how, when we're competing with our customers at the point of purchase, how do we win at that point of purchase? This is like very, very, very important strategic things. It's gonna change the way.
Yeah. And these are not things that happen, you know, back at the corporate. I think they happen right in front of us while we're at the store, and we've never thought about these things happening that way. So I want to pull you back to another section above, which you've covered, that ties to your sales force of tomorrow, which was the home cooking. Yes. So that the statement there was the uptake of e-commerce and home cooking, and I was thinking, home cooking, interesting that it's being put together with e-commerce, but I got immediately distracted by the changes in store shopping dynamics.
Yes.
And every time we're in stores, we see these people who are standing there with a little bit of a gas hob, induction hob, cooking something, helping you taste some creation, a little bit of a in-store chef. And you get, you know, you can pick a boerewors and you can pick a kubin and you can pick a whatever it is, right? And taste this. Now in light of lockdown restrictions and social distancing that we've experienced, I hadn't noticed that no longer happens in stores. So
because you can't share
and
now.
how much revenue do they have they, or how much market share,
because,
whatever measure they have.
Because that was an activation strategy,
so,
and that was all about winning at the point of purchase, right? And so home cooking takes that away from them.
Away from that. And so it was just coming together, that whole statement of, e-commerce, home cooking, and these in-store shopping dynamics. And then to your point, and then the sales force of tomorrow, it's just all quite loaded.
No, 100%. I mean, for me, what that's bringing up now is this environment is changing.
Yes.
It's changing massively.
Yes.
They're having to respond. They've identified things. They're responding.
Yeah.
They're having to tackle things that they haven't done before.
Yeah.
That's quite complex.
Quite complex now, and then with things we haven't touched on because they haven't mentioned them here. They've just put them under the umbrella of e-commerce. But how does Zulzi? How does Checker 6060? How does, what's Woolworths one called? The Woolworths Flash. How does
and then Pick and Pay Dash?
Pick and Pay Dash, and what's the is it one cart?
One cart that
one cart. Yes. Yes.
Mass Mart
Mass
Mart one cart.
How do these things? Because when we hear e-commerce, which is I'll call it the default you were doing, is we think when they say e-commerce, it's about them building e-commerce. Maybe not. Maybe it's what stance do they take strategically with this new channel called e-commerce.
Yeah, exactly.
And then to make it worse, to your earlier point, there's no one at the table, at the board, bringing these to the board and saying,
and having a strategic conversation about it, and being able to explore the strategic implications associated with that. And you can see now, I mean, it's core to their business, and they have to have a response of some sort, and they have to think about it strategically because it's pervasive across the organization. And of course, there's the opportunity of digital operating models, right? And here you can already see, just if you read their statements on the winning at the point of purchase, their go-to-market models are changing, are having to change. And so the question is, the opportunity I think that they're missing at the moment is the opportunities that digital will bring them. They felt it, they're saying it, but they're not yet acting it.
Acting on it.
They don't have that executive structure in place yet, etc. So even here in the winning at the point, they've got a statement on big data and digital dashboards. And they've got a statement on geolocation and maps and a better understanding. And you can already see that they are making use of these digital capabilities. And these digital capabilities are necessary in their strategy. They need to now add it to their Excel. They need to now have that person in the Excel for them to be actually leverage this properly and realize the strategy. So for me, again, that's going to be one of the flags I'm going to watch for Tiger Brands. I'm going to say, okay, when do they hire this person? When this person joins the board, or do they promote, doesn't matter. But when that person has an exco seat, then we know digital has got a seat at the table, and then these strategic outcomes are realizable.
And I know you've said it before, but just to confirm, you do not believe Ian is that. No harm to Ian. Just
no. Just like maybe he does become that, but
no, I think Ian is going to be the champion of that person. I think you're right. You need that person, and Ian is just a good, partner to that person, so that they don't feel lonely as they bring the story to the board. But it's not an Ian.
Okay. Just the 3 more things. Driving growth in Africa. So they've got a strategy for growth in Africa, and that looks like a good story, and that makes sense. Then realizing opportunities for inorganic growth, which is the point that you were making earlier. So by acquisition. So they're looking for acquisitions close to
Wellness Warehouse.
And go buy Wellness Warehouse, guys. And then just a little aside here, delivering growth through our innovation pipeline. So so this caught my eye as well for a couple of things. Our brands, they don't innovate a lot, and it looks like Tiger Brands have recognized and acknowledged that. They've restructured their R&D capability. I like I'm seeing more of the more modern innovation language in their responding to delivering growth, and so that restructure with the increase and developing a more culture of innovation, great stuff. Looking forward to that. At the moment, though, I mean, in terms of the items that it's kind of very much incremental innovations at this stage. We've changed the packaging size of this one. Incremental innovations. So what I'm looking forward to is that this R&D restructure, creating more of a culture of innovation, is going to bear more disruptive innovations in the next 2 to 3 years.
And I just want to mention I want to mention the things that you're looking at, because you didn't mention them. You just said the things I'm looking at. But so you're looking at the fact that they've brought about a new 12.5 kg Induna Super Maize Meal package. You're looking at this Jungle Plus refills that they now have a 500 gram one. They've got a new offering in the pasta section, which is now 2 kilograms. And there's a new tub of all gold jam. It's an alternative size. They don't mention the size, but again, the packaging. So when you say incremental innovation, you're looking at the stuff and you're just saying, this is just packaging.
You just and it's understandable, like a different, I mean, we've learned from the bottom of the pyramid that different packaging sizes are important for different segments of the market. And so certainly these innovations are giving them access to different segments in the marketplace. And that will definitely drive up sales. But it's incremental. It's not a disruptive innovation. They're not cannibalizing their own market, for example. They're not bringing out a product that's taking out cool beans, for example, or something like that. It's a little bit more of the same.
To your statement there, and that's why I tease and call it faster horses, because Henry Ford is known to have made the statement that if we had asked the people what they wanted when we invented the automobile, they would have said faster horses.
We don't want the car. Just give us a faster horse.
Just give us a faster horse. And that's the point of innovation. And that's why you want innovation to have a seat at the board, because you want people not to be bringing these incremental package size changes that do bring about innovation, like you say, but you want somebody who comes and presents a car versus a horse.
So when you look at that Exco, where does this sit?
Faster horses, definitely. And it's not faster horses because of the Exco. It's because of the things that the Exco is measuring that will result in faster horses. And that is your point. Innovation should not be a byproduct of efficiency.
100%.
You had 2 more points?
No, that was it. That was it, yeah. Okay, I'm just taking a quick squiz at the Exco again, quickly.
Okay.
And just seeing, so they've got a chief marketing officer, chief supply chain officer, corporate affairs, legal officer, customer officer. Acting chief financial officer.
I'm looking at the experience as you're going through it.
And a chief strategy officer, human resources, consumer brands, corporate finance. So chief strategy, does R&D sit with him?
No.
Does R&D sit with customer officer?
No.
Does R&D sit with chief marketing officer?
I would almost say there's a guy there who is the chief supply chain officer. And I would say by default, most probably, that's where a lot of it sits. Because of their focus on that value chain and those 5 elements of the value chain that we went through: procurement, manufacturing, all the way down to marketing, and it would just logically end up most probably with the supply chain guy, because you've got your R&D in the middle and your marketing and branding on the other end, and your packaging in the 4th.
What about the chief growth officer?
There is a chief growth officer. Well, it's unfortunately they've attached that word consumer brands there. Remember, they covered that they've got the 4 sections. They've got the health, personal care brands. This growth guy is not part of that team. They also had the grains. This guy's not part of the grains thing. There was consumer brands. He is part of consumer brands. And then there was exporting international, and he's not part of exporting international. So I think it's a good start to have the chief growth officer it might be what it is that you're looking for. But unfortunately, immediately, they put shackles on him. They've restricted him.
Yeah. So my feeling is now, when I look back after having read this strategy and looked at the Exco again, I feel like they need to modernize the Exco a little bit. They need to. There's a couple of new roles that they're going to need for the future to cope with this complexity of customers that are competitors, of not having access to the points of sale anymore, etc. There's this Exco team feels a little bit still old school, and they need a little bit of modernization in terms of this Exco team.
And I think the good news, when I look at their ages, ages as in how long they've been with the company, 2018 is starting to feel like a long time ago. A lot of them were hired around 2020. So I think
so they're all still quite fresh.
They're all still quite fresh. So I think we'll see a lot of the rejigging. I think we'll see a lot of what you are looking for. I think I would put it later on when we do the amber, the green light, amber light, red light. A lot of what you're asking for, I think I'm comfortable to put in my amber light to say, even though we don't see what they're doing, they're young enough that I know someone's paying attention to them, trying to do it, trying to do the right thing. Yeah. All right. So, Walid, can I pull you over to the financials? I'd love to do a quick look at the financial ratios. And the reason we go to financials is because we don't want to go through the financial performance in the traditional sense. We are looking at performance now, but we want to look at it from a generating insights point of view, so that we know, is this a company that is good to invest in?
Perfect.
Okay, so that was a look at the annual report, and now we're going to jump in and look at the annual financial statement. Just as a reminder, the annual report that we looked at was from 2020, and now we're looking at annual financial statements that brought us to the company because they've just released those. Their year end is the 30th of September. So when we talk about the financial year end for 2021, it's 30th of September. Traditionally, you've got your auditors and stuff, so that's what October was about. And then November, you're clean, you've got them signed off your audited financial statements.
Sure.
And then that's when you usually do the big release. And that's what we're going to now dive in.
So just before we dive in, I just wanted to make one, maybe you should as well, just an overall comment about what we've been through so far. Kind of thing. And for me, like once, now that I've kind of gone through all of that and looked at all the different bits and pieces before the financials, I see an organization experiencing a lot of change. It's got a relatively new management team, kind of thing. I feel like the management team still kind of has to prove themselves. They're very new at this stage. So I wouldn't be judging them too harshly just yet, because a lot of what we're seeing would have been a lot from the previous management team, but also a company market dynamics changes. COVID would have affected them. We certainly know that the looting in the KZN area affected them as well. So a lot of change, a lot of things happening.
So we're going into these financials, and all you're just saying is contextually, because we don't yet know what we're going to find.
No.
We've just opened it. Whether they're going to be good or bad, let's just remind ourselves the context that Tiger brands find themselves in, what these brands find themselves in. Okay, so let's jump in. Just in terms of financials, what I like to do is I like to pull out ratios, and these ratios are basically you take the two statements that I like, the balance sheet and the income statement, and we divide this number over that number, or we times this number that number. So we look at current assets over current liabilities, and these ratios come up, and what they allow us to do is to zoom completely out and look at the performance of a company from their last performance and their current performance, and we then start to understand whether that performance is improving or deteriorating. So that's kind of what the financials do. There's about 4 buckets of financials that I like to look at. The first one is an overall one. and then we go into profitability. We look at liquidity, we can look at efficiency, and then we can look at financial leverage. But rather than go through all of those financials, I always like to keep in mind exactly where we're from. We've now looked at how they're incentivized. So we're going to look at the numbers there because that's where we expect to see good performance. We also look at the strategy because the strategy is telling them what they need to be doing this year, and we see if they're performing against that strategy. Luckily, the two are very well matched in this exercise. Growth is a big driver of them, so we'll hang around profitability a little bit and see if there's any insights that come out of that. So in terms of sales, just pure numbers in terms of sales, they haven't changed that much. They made 29 billion in 2020, and then this last financial year they've gone to 31 billion.
So I just have to ask, on their financials now they've got this group.
Yeah, so we'll focus on
company. So we're focusing on group.
Yeah. Okay. What usually happens is you have a couple of entities maybe that are operating in the outside of South Africa territory. The numbers are so close when you look at the numbers that are in company and group, that rather look at group. But don't hesitate when you're an investor. You can't invest in a company. You can't say, I see what they all own, but I'm here for the cool beans. You're there for the group, so let's look at the group.
So would company then represent the South African company?
It depends how it's sliced up. I haven't looked at it.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I haven't looked at it, but it's some of them are odd little things. Odd, if you sometimes you acquire a company and you just don't merge the two, because it's also listed in India.
Okay.
Yeah. So group is the more, everybody has to feed their numbers into group. So group's the better one to look at. So from a group point of view, they were 29 billion and they've gone to 31 billion, and their EBITDA was 2.2 billion, and it's gone to 2.4 billion. So on the face of it, and one would think this company is doing okay and is relatively growing. This is why I like ratios. I wanted to give you those numbers just so you bear in mind what might jump out at you. But now let's jump and look at them from a ratio point of view.
Sure.
And say, is this company, in the things that we're worried about, how are they really doing? So the first one, of course, is we can look at the profit over sales. So how are they making more profit from the sales that they're making? Because we know they're making more sales, but are they more profitable? The good news is yes.
Yes, they are.
They've gone from 3.5 to 6.1.
Oh, okay. That's a good jump.
It's a very good jump. Assets over equity is not looking good, but it's not bad either. My summary when it comes to equity is they're stagnant. Reminder of equity: you buy a house and the bank borrows you money, you have no equity because the price of the house and how much you owe the bank are equal. Over time, you pay off the bank, so you owe the bank less, but the house increases in value. Equity is the difference.
Yeah.
So what we want to see here is we want to see growing equity. And that's why we look at assets over equity, because you can buy more assets and look like you're doing well, but the equity isn't growing. Not great numbers here. They haven't moved. They've gone from 1.4 to 1.5.
Okay.
Hasn't really terribly improved. But their return on equity to this new team that's there, they haven't bought much more in the last period, but they've been more profitable. They've closed off more debt. They've increased enough asset for them to improve that return on equity. So they've gone from 6.5 to 12%. So that is looking really good. The section that I will now be leaning a lot towards you for, because when we talk about growth, we expect to see growth heavily linked to profitability. And the profitability ratios shocked me. So I like to look at the three and I'll rapid fire them, and then maybe you'll tell me if you can see anything based on that. So gross margin, I bought all that wheat and all that grain, and then I sold it, and the difference between how much I bought it for and how much I sold it for is the gross margin.
Yeah.
But of course I have a manufacturing plant that has to also manufacture some stuff. I've got some R&D, so I've got operating expenses. That's the second number, which is operating margin. So minus cost of sales, minus my cost of employees and factories, And then the last one, of course, is I've paid my taxes, and my last number is the net margin, which is the final number. Their gross margin dropped from 30% to 28%.
Yeah.
Their operating margin stayed the same, from 7.4% to 7.6%, and their net margin almost doubled from 3.4% to 6%. What does it all mean?
Yeah. Okay. So there were a couple of things I could see in the income statement that immediately revealed that difference. So you can see the operating margin staying the same or getting better shows that the things the guys had in their control, they were controlling well.
Okay.
The reason gross margin dropped was there were a couple of unexpected external items.
Yes.
And okay, so maybe I'm being a little bit generous. There was one issue that they had in their control which had a big impact on their gross profit.
Okay.
Which was they had a recall. They had a recall that cost about 308 million. They took recall cans. It was a packaging issue.
Oh my goodness.
And they had to recall quite a big distribution. So
and how much did they recall?
Well, the value of it in the income statement is 308 million.
308 million. I just wanted to put that into perspective. Their net profit, so after they paid everything else, is 2 billion. So a 300 million recall is what from a percentage point of view? 20%?
No, not as much. Because it's 2 billion, you said, right?
2 billion, yeah.
Yeah, so 300 million on 2 billion. 300 million on 1 billion would be 30%, so it would be 15%.
So 50%.
15%
hit on your net.
Yeah. Then that wasn't the only one. They also took a hit on the civil unrest in KZN, and they took an 85 million rand hit there.
Okay, so we're climbing up now, 18% or so.
Yeah.
Net margin.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that explains the gross margin thing. Of course, the recall thing is a quality conversation, right? If I'm manufacturing, if I'm packaging, like there was a quality control issue somewhere, kind of thing. And that talks to internal controls, talks to people issues, talks to...
I mean, two
it's a very expensive lesson to learn, this one.
I mean, two statements that I remember as we were going through the annual report that you made. The first one, you were very unhappy with how they grouped a lot of things. Revenue streams and cost streams and revenue segments and all sorts of stuff. When the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, that's what causes you to make that statement. But now the impact of that, because remember, packaging is not part of R&D and is not part of marketing. It sits on its own. You start getting product recalls.
So you could call these abnormal things happening, like the product recall and the civil unrest. So you could say the civil unrest, you could forgive them for that one. They should have gotten some insurance back that would have covered that cost for them, so that should net out over time. But the one that they did have in their control, which was the product recall, was a very, very costly.
Another thing that is not in their control on the gross margin, which I reflect on again in the annual report, is that little chat we're having about private label and the competitiveness of private label disrupting them probably hit that gross margin.
100%. 100%.
Okay. Their net margin, however, has improved. So you were still telling us the story.
So the net margin improving is kind of an indication of the costs and things that I can control. I'm controlling well.
Okay.
I'm driving those costs down. I'm keeping them to a minimum. And it's also probably a spillover of 2020 into 2021. I mean, 2020 required a lot of scaling back, a lot of scaling down type activities. And that's probably you're seeing that coming through now, and that's allowing them to get there. But you can see things like their finance costs, they've gotten rid of a lot of debt. So they're paying a lot less in terms of that. They've made some losses on the foreign exchange because export is a big market for them. So foreign exchange, they've made some losses there. Whereas in the previous year, they've made some gains, significant gains there.
Right.
I thought I heard the camera go off.
I thought so too. Okay, we'll carry on that one though.
Miguel's the camera off?
Yeah, it's dead.
What's it, the battery?
Yeah. It's just dead.
Okay, battery's gone. Okay, let's carry on that one.
Okay, cool.
I'll just charge it.
Okay, continue.
Continue.
Yeah, and then they've got this item called income from associated companies. And it's under their profit, including non-operational items.
Yeah.
So those kinds of non-operational things into my net profit. So there's a 345 million bump up.
Yes.
You know, so my gross margin and my gross income is from my core operational activities.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so my gross profit is all core, you know, and then there's these other things that they're getting income from.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they are. It says income from associated companies. We've got to look that up, what the associated companies are and what that income is. But there was a nice 345 million rand boost in there. And I think that's what's helped their profit, their net profit bump up.
Okay. So just for our potential investor, our astute investor, as they go along, where Waleed is in the income statement and is looking at the income statement, and by this point we're trying to get you used to and comfortable with seeing that profit, and then all of a sudden there's this profit that comes from places that you haven't read about anyway.
Yeah.
So the trick there is just before the number stated, there's usually a note number. And in this case, what's your note number there?
15.2. Yeah.
So 15.2, and what you then have after the financials have been stated, your three documents, there's a note section where they'll go through a lot of things that fall under that note. So you can immediately find 15.2, the associated, and in there you'll see the things that they've talked about. And they talk about three companies there. They talk about an Empresas Carozzi is a company, National Food Holdings Limited is a company, and then a UAC Foods company that is there. What that usually means is, as they were doing an M&A, as they were doing a merger and acquisition, that business is still running, and it's running and it's beholden to other shareholders, maybe even on another stock market, and it pays basically what would be dividends, or the equivalent of something like dividends. Sometimes it's intercompany transfers that need to be seen so that it's not insider trading, or it's not money under the table.
So the reason they separated is because it's not under their operational control. They're an owner, they're a shareholder 100%. Of that company, but not operational control, and so they split out.
100%. So you as an investor sitting at home, if you invest in Tiger Foods, you don't get a share of National Food Holdings. You don't get a share of Empresas Carozzi, wherever they sit. You don't get a share of UAC as this investor. But the dividends that those companies pay into the company. So the company that you are buying into owns other companies almost, simplistically. So that's where you'll see those little things come through. And they're good for you to spot, because sometimes the detail in there, it's good that this one is adding. Sometimes it erodes value completely. You're all of a sudden not sitting with a lemon. This thing made no money because something it owned had a rights issue that got called on it, and it had to give away money. So just as
yes, no, perfect. And so they bring only in the net, right? They don't bring in the total sales and those kinds of things. It's only the net number that you're profiting from, and they bring it in at the net profit number.
Absolutely, because you've got different tax obligations as well. Yeah.
But they don't say what percentage of these companies they own. They just say
they do. I was lazy to go through the detail. But I saw when you were scrolling, they've got a whole write up of those companies and what those companies are doing and stuff. Yeah. Okay. So
345 million is the net income. I think
not terribly, not terrible. And then of course we can then look at the return on equity or the RONA. Again, those are doing well, but I do want to highlight the RONA, the return on the net assets. And I highlight it because of this team that we're calling the new team that's coming in. They are doing extremely well. They've taken the RONA from a 9.5% to a 17.7%. I find it interesting because they're not being measured on RONA. Unless we read that wrong when we were in that section.
No, there was
in that section. They're not.
It was growth and
they're being measured on growth
and efficiency.
So you've got actually a team that's knocked it out of a park on a KPI that they're not measured on. But
look, my feeling is still that you can't yet say these are the things of this team too much.
But remember, this is dangerous because growth, has a lot of factors that are very different to the type of value that these guys are generating for you. And it would be a pity for any one of these guys to leave because they feel slighted by the way the cards have been laid in terms of them being measured on growth.
But still early days for them.
It is, but people want to buy Ferraris, people want to buy Lamborghinis, and all of a sudden, the Ferrari place says you can't have the Ferrari. But anyway, I think that's liquidity. I don't want to really dive into their liquidity situation. You want to be above 1.
Yeah, we are.
And they've gone from 1.1 to 0.91 on the asset test. That's when I remove inventory. When you put inventory in, they're 2. Okay. They're 2, and so it's looking good. So I'm happy with what they have there. What I do want to settle on is I want to sit on this point because we've seen so many bad examples, and I want to commend this team. If you're a small business and you are supplying Tiger brands, if you are providing that wheat or that sorghum or those beans or that maize, or you're the farmer that is contributing to that input, the worst thing for you is for them to get their stuff, go off and make it and not pay you. So how many days does it take for them to pay you? And I'm talking about farming. So you have to have that hat in mind. And their creditor settlement is 86 days. So in under 3 months, under a cycle of your stuff growing, you're going to see money back from Tiger brands. And I think that is excellent. That is excellent. They sell to Clicks, of course. They sell to, I use Clicks because of my favorite chocolate. They sell to Macro. They sell to a lot of these people that we call under their channel partners. And these people have terms with them. How quickly do these people actually pay them back versus their terms?
Yes,
and for me, the golden number is 30. Have to be around the 30s, and they are on 38.5 days.
That's a lot better than I thought it would be.
And they've dropped from 42. So,
okay.
So we can say this team is doing the right things. They are collecting their money very, very quickly, and then of course from a farmer point of view, they're giving you your money back before you need to settle your creditors. So an operating cycle of 2 months, 51 days, for a big company like this, FMCG, is very, very
for an
good.
FMCG,
so very well done, I think, to that team. That warms my heart from a good citizen point of view, but also from a shrewd businessman point of view.
Yeah, it also helps a lot with the cash flow.
Helps a lot with the cash flow.
The cash
and back to our, if you listen to one of our other podcasts, we talk about the hotelier running all over the place, and we talk about the velocity of money. You're introducing good velocity into this economy. Financial leverage, you did touch on it. It is a little bit not great. It's 31% debt ratio, and that's gone up a little bit from 26%. A company like this can easily sit in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad thing, because I said 60% of their KPI is growth.
Yeah. But it still means they're sitting on a lot of cash.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're on growth and you're going to go buy those health companies,
Sure.
I think they do lots of due diligences. I think they're going to debt fund, and
so they've got a lot of cash to buy a lot of companies.
Yeah, when we go through the first half of the financials for FY 2022, I'm hoping to see in the sense before that or afterwards that there's some companies that they're buying already. That will tell me that they're good. So the upside for you, if you're investing in this company, they're not going to be calling on you. They've got lots. They can get debt funding, which is good for you as an investor because you don't have to. You can still get your dividends, but the downside, to your point, is it's very low. That debt ratio is very, very low.
So for me, one of the reasons I call that out, right, is because to me, you're always talking about the good corporate citizenship.
Yes.
And we had that chat about the velocity of money.
Yes.
And so when big corporates like this are sitting on cash, it has a negative impact on the economy.
Everybody else.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so you see a slowdown in the economy because the corporates are sitting on cash.
Yes.
So this is yet another one. I mean, almost every corporate that we've gone through so far, except NTA, has got a whole whack of cash they're sitting on
the money.
And so for me, when you connect those dots to the fact that our economy is in a recession and it's not growing,
it's because
there's no velocity.
That's
not
very
that's not driving the growth.
Very true, and that's a very good point. So
that's why I always look at that particular.
Yes.
And I want to know where they're at with that.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, and the one other section that I haven't yet covered here, and I need to go find it, is the dividends. I did not put it in my ratios, so this is kind of going to be. This is kind of going to be on the fly for me. But if we go and look at what dividends they declared, that would be an interesting. So let's see. They did declare some dividends and they did pay out some dividends. Let's get dividends per share. It's not a quick place for me to get to. I thought I would get to it far faster. Okay, we're going to edit this part as we look. We may have to pause. I think we have to go to the note 11. Okay, got it. Don't worry, I've got it.
Okay, do you want to soldier through?
Yeah, let's just soldier.
And then wrap it up.
Oh, I need to know how much their share is worth. That's all. Tiger Brand's share. Because it's recent of the kind of share price. So, okay, 17,000 cents. What's that? 177 Rand. Yeah, 177 Rand. And I want to juxtapose that with 177 Rand. Just give me 1 second. They paid out $826. Okay. Yeah, let's wrap it up. I'm carrying on because it's rolling, right? Okay. Okay, so that, and then the last thing that I wanted to touch on there is the dividends per share and the share price. I haven't done a very big deep dive here, but you're looking at getting back about 4% paid out in dividends. They paid out 8 Rand 26 per share, and their share is worth about 177 rand. So you're getting 4.7% being paid out. It's not the best. We've seen absolutely horrendous ones, and we've seen absolutely fantastic ones. But because I know that they're about growth and the direction that they are trying to drive the business in, 4.7 isn't horrible. So with that, my to buy or not to buy, maybe to start there for me, this is a definite buy business. But it doesn't negate the red that we've spoken about, but I'm buying because of the green and the amber. And the red, I think that we spoke about is really that innovation part of the business. Not being at that strategic table is a big point that you make there. On the amber side, I know it's a big bugbear of yours, the velocity and not creating velocity because you're sitting on all of your leverage. You're in a good cash position, but you're taking away from opportunity. But because they've got growth as a big KPI, I put that in the amber bucket for me. I think if we go past the whole of FY22 and they haven't bought anything, there's no inorganic growth, then I'm in your camp, and that moves into red for me. And then in terms of just the green, new blood, new exco team trying to adapt. Yeah, so that I think the green for me there is really being adaptive, having a whole new team coming in, seeing the guard being transferred, or the torch being transferred very, very nicely from old guard to new guard. It's not something that is a common story, especially for a company that's been around for this long. And that, if you're investing in this company, should give you really good, warm feelings that you haven't thrown any of your money away. And then the biggest green light for me still is the brands that we've mentioned and we ran through at the beginning are dear to us. They are things that do nurture us, and so they're living up to their purpose. And so for me, it is a good company to invest in.
Okay. So that one green that you have around the new team, for me, that's an orange actually. Okay. Because I feel like the new team still kind of got to prove themselves. The other part that's orange for me is, I think there's their roles and responsibility allocation in terms of the board needs a bit of a refresh. I can see they've done some, but I think it needs a little bit more work, and so I'm expecting as the team as the team settles into their roles and responsibilities, to expect that. Another orange for me is the market complexity.
Yes.
They're certainly going into, the market has changed. The market is very different. Cool brands, and their brands have been around for many years, and I think they're under pressure. They're under pressure now.
But the Americans coming in. The Tesco's.
100%, and so I think new markets, new team, sure. New complexities. We still got to see how this team matures into that and fights that. For me, the main red was on their people thing. I don't think that focus is strong enough. And a lot more needs to be done, particularly also in terms of ownership, in terms of innovation, those kinds of, that ownership in terms of the people ownership of the organization, of the work, that's not coming through as a very strong message, and I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that space. So that's a red for me.
Another red that I just remembered as well was the faster horses problem. So after you put in the innovation, please don't innovate incrementally.
Sure.
And especially with a thing that I did not point out, I think I touched on it loosely. The equity hasn't moved. That's not a good position to be in. So they're leveraging their asset better, but they're not growing the company. And so that red need to change, whether they like it or not. They need
100%. So for me, I mean, this is obviously one of the companies that kind of benefited a little bit from COVID. But still, COVID was quite a tough time.
Yeah.
And I think they've done reasonably well coming through the COVID dynamics so far.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's a green for me. The other green, of course, is their market dominance in terms of their brands. That, I mean, they're strong, they're household brands. Those brands on quickly. Yeah. But of course, when price pressure comes along, like we are seeing in a multi-year recession like we have, with all the job losses in South Africa as well, people will go to the cheaper no-name brands as well. You would expect that to, so certainly they would be under pressure in terms of that. Yeah. For me, I want to see. So I think for me this is also a watch. Okay. I want to see. There's a couple of flags. Yeah. I like what they've said in terms of their strategy and where they're going. They recognize the complexity.
But you want to see the results.
I want to see them produce. I want to see this management team execute first. Still, like I feel like a lot of what's happening so far is still from the previous team, kind of coming through before you're seeing the effects of this team. Yeah. For me, a big green was the R&D, the shifts they're making there, the restructuring they're making there, the changes. That's a great positive. I expect that to yield fruits 2 years, 3 years from now, kind of thing. And so it's all about their ability to execute. Yeah. So it's very easy to come up with stuff in the lab, but then commercializing that is the hard thing. It's that execution of that commercialization. And so their ability to do that, I think, will be the signal of success of this organization, of this team, of this management team, to be able to deliver, the goods. So those are the kinds of flags. I'm watching the R&D. I'm watching what they're coming up with from an R&D point of view. I'm waiting for them to make digital a first-class citizen. So get them a seat at the table. I'm wanting to see a digital officer there somewhere. I feel if they're not, then they're not going to be able to take advantage of the strategic benefits of digital that they've named in their strategy. If they do, I think then they have a good chance of actually, and there's two places they have the opportunity to leverage digital strong. It's in their manufacturing and quality control. There's large opportunities there, as we've just seen with their recall. And then, of course, as they pointed out in their strategy, the utilization of things like big data, e-commerce, to change that operating model to win at the point of sale. At the point of purchase. At the point of purchase. Which is something certainly that they need to, which would be a completely new thing for them to tackle as an organization that's been largely manufacturing strong.
Perfect.
Okay.
So it's a watch for you, it's a buy for me, and let us know what you decide. And you get to it at home. Until the next time, we hope that you continue to make hay while the sun shines.
And I hope you find this very useful.
Okay.
Cheers.